You're welcome to this news hour on Équinoxe Television with me, Babla Jonathan, live from Douala, Cameroon. In our top stories in this edition of the news, insecurity is forcing inhabitants of Tuburu in the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon out of their homes. Many of them are escaping for their safety and are seeking refuge out of their areas of residence. We'll tell you more about that in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Équinoxe Television, in which we will also talk about water crisis in Kumba 3 subdivision in the Meme Division Southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. And out of the country, there are warnings that more than 1 million people are facing acute food shortage and hunger in the southern part of Madagascar as a result of the island's worst drought in 40 years. Insecurity continues dictating its own laws on the people of Tuburu in the far north region, or rather in the north region of the Republic of Cameroon, and many people are now escaping their homes to seek refuge elsewhere as a result of rising insecurity and threats. Details in this report by Innocent.
Golombali and Mayunda, localities found in Tuburu subdivision, Mayuri division of the North region, have been characterized for several months by insecurity. Roads are deserted with calm of a graveyard, and mostly the crow of a cock is heard. Fear could be read in the eyes of the few locals who have nowhere to escape to, despite the rising insecurity. Bike riders are killed and their motorbikes taken away. Since January till present, 200 kidnapped cases have been recorded. Over 100 million francs has been paid for ransom, yet hostages are still in captivity. One of the hostages still in captivity was kidnapped on May 16, 2021 in Golombali, situated 52 kilometers from Tuburu. The kidnappers stormed a residence and ordered the family heads to sit on the floor. One of them ordered him and the wife to be quiet or the man will be killed. The woman did not feel threatened. As she ran out of the house, she met two others at the door, and all attempts to raise alarm for help went fruitless as they went away with her husband. In Mayunda, 40 kilometers from Tuburu, one of the hostages kidnapped in the month of April 2021 finally regained his freedom. He was freed on May 12 after paying a ransom of 10 million francs CFA. His brothers assisted him to pay the ransom. He sold all his cattle, maize, groundnuts, and other properties to raise the money. Internal accomplices well exist in these localities. A local accentuates. There are blacklegs amongst us cooperating with the criminals. When such internal accomplices are caught and jailed, few days later they are released upon intervention of top personalities, making the population to live in fear. Shops in Tuburu remains locked throughout Wednesday and part of Thursday as a way to protest the phenomenon. The local administration remains divided on this subject matter. While the MP for Mayuri constituency, Buba Musa, admits insecurity reigns in the locality, Yanda Celestin, mayor of Tuburu, on the program La Vérité en Face on Équinoxe Television, rebuked this stance. Protection is all the population demand from government.
Insecurity rising in Tuburu in the north region of the Republic of Cameroon It is, of course, the same situation in several parts of the three northern regions, notably Adamawa North and the Far North region, but more serious in the Far North region as a result of sporadic attacks by militants of the Boko Haram terrorist sect from neighboring Nigeria, and also in the east region of the country with sporadic incursions by Seleka rebels from the Central African Republic. And here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, there is equally a problem of insecurity. In the Douala 4 subdivision, security forces have launched a manhunt. They are searching for a man who is accused of having killed his own spouse. In the Douala 4 subdivision, precisely around the Mabanda, or in the Mabanda neighborhood, as Manjikan Gabriel reports.
Total consternation in Block 39, Mabanda, Douala 4 subdivision. Inhabitants of this neighborhood were overtaken after a man by name Chekwa Leopold murdered his wife, Weleji Christelle, a crime which the man accepted committing it.
We reached at my cousin's house. We saw blood everywhere inside her room on top of the bed. We then asked the population now what really happened. Some they said they did not heard what happened. It's this morning that they discovered that something happened. Then some they said her husband used to beat her. The man used to beat her, always beating her, always beating her. So we then asked her, how did people discover or know that she was dead? They said the man sent a voicemail to his girlfriend. His girlfriend that is having outside too. So that he's not regretting his act that he committed.
Sources within Block 39 say that Leopold has been beating his wife, Christelle, on any disagreement they had. The last fight dated Saturday, May 15, 2021, when the woman returned from her job site and Leopold trashed her, asking why the woman could abandon their kids at home alone. The incident that led to the killing of his wife, Christelle, neighbors say wasn't strange to them, but the fact that Leopold had to cut his wife raised eyebrows.
My mother received a phone call. I was sleeping. I heard her crying and asked, Mom, what is wrong? She called her my sister's name. I said, which of them? She called all her name. I was shocked. Around 4 o'clock, they called us again that I've carried the corpse to Bonasama mortuary. That is where we went and met the corpse on the theater. That is where I saw my cousin's body. I don't know whether it's a cutlass he used or it's a knife. He cut her ear, cut her left hand, used a knife and pierced her all over her breast, and also used a cutlass and cut her shoulder until the bone was even showing.
The lifeless body of Weleji Christelle is at the Bonasama Hospital mortuary, while security forces are in search of Chekwa Leopold, who is on the run.
The suspect is still on the run, and it should be noted that according to Cameroonian laws, he remains a suspect until proven guilty by a competent judicial institution. To the southwest region of the country now, insecurity is equally a problem there, but added to that problem of insecurity caused by the 5-year or close to 5-year long anglophone crisis, there is a problem of inadequate potable water supply in the Kumba 3 subdivision, as we hear in this report.
It is a devastating water crisis hitting the Mabanda neighborhood of the Kumba 3 municipality in the Meme division of the southwest region of Cameroon. Here in Mabanda, the only available water source is a doubtful one, which has been dealt a serious blow by time. The taps have not been flowing for a long period, while the people say they are still waiting for the fulfillment of campaign promises made by their elected officials.
The small streams where they do around, they would manage our water, would drink. So we beg government, let government try to do something. mostly our Kumba 3 municipality, our mayor, may try
to not get drinking water. We need water from Mambanda. So the stream of the dream would ever go carry water. We plan to not go for the stream because the stream don't get a problem.
The mayor of the Kumba Free municipality says plans are on the way to construct several portable water points for the population of his municipality. He also calls on the people to fetch water from the water points constructed at the council chambers while waiting for the announced projects.
It has been a long-standing problem, and when we were coming into the office of the Kumba 3 Subdivisional Council, that was our priority. The government has provided resources as projects for water in Mambanda. If I can remember, it's at least twice, but still we are unable to have water, and those funds were provided when we were not in office. The last one, this particular last term, that we realized that funds were provided and water could still not flow, we were informed that the technicians underestimated whatever was required to provide water, because it is the calm water that we want. So they exhausted the budget without fulfilling all the necessary conditions that required water to flow. So there was an arrangement which we thought we could follow up to ensure that water flows. In fact, in one of our sessions, I even promised water to flow in Mambanda, calm water, within a week. Unfortunately, the technician, calm water technician, who assured me, after having received a certain amount of money, could not deliver the goods. So I had to pursue him even to return that money. Make all the earlies, they try to see the good in everything we try to do, rather than for criticize and rather than for give negative attributes.
Mayor Dr. Isaac Mukwele further calls on elites of his area to join the development trend.
They cry for water for women and years of.
Comrade David Akwo, who has been a quarter head for over 30 years in Kumba Free, says he has seen countless failed water projects for the municipality.
Now cry for government and cry say where they cry for water for women and years of.
Several other projects have been announced for the provision of portable water to the inhabitants of Kumba Free. However, the people say they are most interested in the realization phase, having been deceived with several promises for many years.
In the Douala 4 municipality, as it is the case in several other parts of the country's economic capital and other major cities of the country, floods has been and remains a major problem affecting life adversely during the rainy season. And this is why in the Douala 4 municipality, the council or authorities, municipal authorities, have launched a project aimed at rehabilitating and making sure that the neighborhood has good drainage canals to avoid the usual flooding that hits the area during heavy downpours. Charles Ekome reports.
Inhabitants of Bonaberi in the Douala 4 subdivision say they continue to experience hardship due to poor drainage patterns in the locality, a dampening situation which has resulted to diseases such as malaria and cholera due to standing water. Moreover, locals find it difficult to navigate through these streets, especially during the raining seasons.
Everywhere the water enters our house, even when a little rain just falls, everywhere water is full. Even when we are going to school, we're always falling inside water. My junior sister, everywhere water, mud.
Person like me, look at my attire. A nurse, I have to walk with a clean dress. I travel through water to reach my job site. Sometimes I reach very late and I'm asked to go back. Can you imagine? Our drinking pipes are found inside the gutter. And sometimes where they are open like that, some people, because of hardship, they decide to fetch water directly from the gutters rather than fetching from the tap itself. So the hygiene conditions are very limited.
However, some locals also blame inhabitants of Bonaberi to being the cause of this emerging problem.
The population is the cause of all this, because when we go around, as just what we have just done, you see that people, if you bought a land of about 100 meters square, you end up by having 150 meters square. That is every day they're encroaching, every day they're encroaching. And they have also the banana plantation along the line, so much so that the water passage is reduced to 1 meter.
It is for this reason that the mayor of Douala 4 subdivision, Dr. Mobi Pa Edouard Heve, has embarked on a project towards rehabilitating the drainage patterns in some neighborhoods in Bonaberi. A campaign will be carried out in the space of 14 weeks so as to keep the municipality in good sanitary conditions.
We are here today in Katibileng to prevent flood, and we want to remove all the sand and all the vegetation who is on the drain. And we have two kinds of work we have to do. We have to do a work with manual manner, as we done today, but with the collaboration with Communauté Urbaine, we will also do a drainage with a mechanic engine.
With effective work already launched, the population is expecting a new page which will mark the end to their sufferings and hardship due to floods, which has even claimed lives in the past. It is a saddening situation in some neighborhoods in Bonaberi, in the Douala 4 subdivision. As you can all see, there is a lack of good drainage systems in the locality. Furthermore, this has led to constant floods during the rainy seasons, as locals here blame inhabitants for sheer carelessness, as many are said to have constructed houses on these drainage canals, as you can all see behind me. Reporting live for Équinoxe Television, we are Robert Mukube, Martin Abanda, and Charles Ekome, signing out.
A news out of Cameroon, a study has suggested that hospital patients in Africa who are critically ill with COVID-19 are far more likely to die than in other parts of the world. It says a shortage of critical care resources was a key problem, and this includes both a lack of specialized staff and equipment such as blood oxygen monitors, and the researchers say they are hoping that their work will help inform the way severely ill patients are managed where resources are limited. And joining us from Zambia is a health specialist who is going to be explaining those figures. That information. Dr. Francis Mupeta, lead case management COVID-19 response, Zambia National Public Health Institute, and consultant World Health Organization COVID-19 case management. Dr. Mupeta, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for having me this evening.
Information concerning critically ill COVID-19 patients in Africa. A study indicating that they are more likely to die than in other parts of the world.
Thank you very much for this question. Basically, this study has just highlighted the inevitable and something that we have already seen. Despite the official figures showing that Africa has got the lowest mortality, the lowest infection rates compared to other regions. But if we critically analyze these mortalities and compare with the rest of the world, actually there are more Africans who are dying than those who are surviving, especially among the critically ill. So this information for us who have followed the pandemic very well is not surprising, and it actually reinforces, for stronger cause to improve critical care in Africa. Because what the study has just done is to expose the systemic, inefficiencies and inadequacies that we have experienced in Africa for so many years, with regards to critical care.
Study indicates that the shortage of critical care resources was a major problem. How critical is this aspect, this weakness in Africa's response to the COVID-19 pandemic?
This is actually, the major weakness, because we know that the people are likely to die are those who are actually present with, severe disease. And if we look at mortalities among people with severe disease, is quite high. Now, if we again try to dissect exactly why, people with critical illness died from COVID, we can actually find that they are different, levels of inadequacies, and this could actually, be analyzed from the patient factors themselves, the human resource factors, the systemic factors such as, infrastructure, equipment, and supplies, and also the virus itself, because it's not a bystander when it comes to, severe illness. So all these factors actually contribute, to the weakness that we have seen, here in Africa, and why so many people are dying.
What explains the fact that in Africa, those who are critically ill are unable to have the specialized staff and the specialized equipment to be able to prevent them from dying? Is it a problem of governance? Is it a problem of difficulties of understanding of the risk and the challenges involved in this particular aspect of the COVID-19 management?
So, what COVID has done is just to expose the systemic neglect we have had with regards to critical care. So if we look at most African countries, except South Africa and Egypt, there's practically no training with regards to critical care. And most of these countries have got very few, physicians who have specialized in critical care. This is not because there are no people with the interest, but because there are no training opportunities for, doctors to sub-specialize in critical care. And the fact that there was a movement in the early 2000s that, talked about task shifting and task sharing. Most of these services have been offered by, low or middle level staff that have been actually oriented to perform some of these works, but because they are not competently qualified to manage, a critically ill patient, these deficiencies actually were exposed with the advent of COVID here in Africa. And if we were to dissect it further in terms of these systemic effects, is we have seen that in most African countries, when an African leader is very sick, they are actually flown out instead of looking at improving, his critical care services in Africa. They are flown out to India or many other, developed countries and with advanced healthcare systems. So this is actually just, gives us an opportunity to introspect with regards to, the budgets for health and, us to look at how we can improve health services. Some governments have been misled by the fact that, they have somehow built a number of infrastructure, but without actually putting in the right equipment. And even when there's the right equipment, there's actually, no people to work. It's also sad to notice that a lot of donor funds have been, poured in this area. Studies have shown that most of the critical care equipment in Africa have actually been donated. And now, if we look at these donations critically, they have been donated without providing the much needed training to utilize them. So you find that they cannot be fully utilized by the people, in these hospitals. And in some instances, they have been, donated in a foreign language that makes it difficult for, the local people to actually interpret and operate that, that machine. So that also contributes to failure to utilize some of these services. Now, if we look at the, the quality of the doctors that we are having, this study has actually shown that the most number of doctors who worked in ICUs were actually not ICU doctors. So that tells you a story that even though we saw the high ratios in terms of doctor-patient ratio, these are not the right doctors who are supposed to be in these ICUs. So that actually limits them to what they can do in trying to support this patient. The data shows that very few patients who were critically ill received respiratory support. And we know that COVID is a respiratory problem and people die because of failing to breathe. Now, if only 11% of all the people that were analyzed, over 3,000, actually received the actual respiratory support, that is very, very sad. And it actually explains why a lot of people died, because they did not receive the necessary respiratory support at the critical time when they needed to be supported.
Francis Mupeta, lead case management, COVID-19 response, Zambia National Public Health Institute, and consultant WHO COVID-19 case management. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. Thanks.
News on the African continent. There are warnings that more than 1 million people in southern Madagascar are facing acute food shortages due to the island's worst drought in 40 years. The rights group Amnesty International said people were resorting to eating cactuses to survive. It said people were selling their belongings and sending children out to work in order to raise money to buy food. A 63-year-old widow with 9 grandchildren explained how her family now only ate once a day some cassava for dinner, and the United Nations says entire villages are emptied as people move elsewhere to seek for help. Talking Point is up next. Thank you for staying with us in Talking Points today. We are receiving an expert in peace and conflict resolution, and his name Aziz Mutanga. He is a public relations and development officer, franchise Conseiller. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Babila, for the invitation. That's the second time.
Right, and as a conflict resolution expert, we're going to be looking at how to heal the wounds. The deepening wounds, so to speak, on national unity, on the unity of the Republic of Cameroon, that unity which was being celebrated yesterday at a time when there is a serious conflict threatening to tear the country apart, threatening to destroy that unity which was established beginning from the plebiscite on the 11th of February 1961, and subsequently on the 1st of October 1961 with the federal system put in place, and then the unitary system on the 20th of May 1972. Where is the problem with what is happening today in the country as far as the unity is concerned, the unity of the country?
It is first important to note that 43 years after there has been a permanent construction of national unity, much has been done, but there's still a long run to go with the various threats that our country is facing today since 2013, with several attacks of the Islamic sect Boko Haram in the far north, which have really paralyzed economically, politically, and culturally the far north. We have the permanent attacks of rebels armed group from Central African Republic paralyzing the corridor Douala-Bangui and the southwest and northwest region since 2016, and the COVID-19, to crown it all with the COVID-19, which have not been a friend to Cameroon. That is a picture of what our what's the challenges, the external and the internal challenges that our national unity is facing today, he has really affected our nationality and the social cohesion for our country.
And the authorities have been saying that the security and defense forces have been at the battleground, making sure that no inch of Cameroon's territory is taken by whosoever is attacking the country or the institutions, and in the different crises which you mentioned in the far north, but more importantly in the northwest and southwest regions, where there is a war of cessation, so to speak, that's been going on for close to 5 years today. Now, how to heal the wounds? Because these security challenges have left serious wounds on the unity of the country. How to heal those wounds?
Yes, it is important to say that violence have never resolve a conflict. Violence will never be a remedy to national unity or consolidate nationality. The first thing that one of the first remedy to heal our national unity or to consolidate our nationality is a rigorous governance. Decentralization or federalism is not the problem, is not what will solve all the problems of Northwest and Southwest in particular, and Cameroon in general. But the most important is to put in place a rigorous governance where we have autonomous councils, we have autonomous regions that will effectively take part in constructing a real system of governance where everybody or all the population will actively take part in the redistribution of the growth, the fruits of the growth in our country.
You know, when you're talking of a rigorous governance system being put in place, what exactly are you referring to in practical terms? What should those who are in authority, who are governing this country, what should they be doing in order to have the results that we are expecting, that is peace and the consolidation of the country's unity, stability, and all whatnot?
It is not again a secret of God's to know that the government have chosen as the mode of governance decentralization. It is not like that the government should all to do its best to really give the means, the financial means, the power to councils and regions for them to operate normally, and the central government to really operate in accordance with the 2019 law on the decentralization. That is more, it will be more practical, because with the system put in place, it will be, we have seen that all the conflict that we have in the country today is, at the basic, is the population who wants their situation to be ameliorated. We take example in Franchise Conseil, what we are doing today. We have launched a project to assist councils to permit them, with our partners with the Agricultural Room of Quebec in Canada, to help councils to really carry out their missions to ameliorate the condition of their population. And two, we are now, most of the problem that we have today in our country is a problem of equitable redistribution of riches. That's where lies our problem. If the government should put all in place, and
something that we are living together but not eating together.
That's the problem. That's the problem. We live together, we work together, but we should eat together. Until the day we will live together and eat together, I'm sure we'll live a stable country.
No, these are long-term solutions, of course, that should be able to provide sustainable peace, sustainable stability in the country. But looking at the things that are happening in some parts of the country with guns that have come into play, earlier you said violence cannot solve any problem. Violence is there, increasing, explosive devices, all sorts of atrocities. The soldiers accused of burning down villages, destroying, maiming and killing people, allegations which the Military authorities have often rejected, but all of these issues are there, and there are people who will tell you today that the house of my mother or my father was burnt down, my father killed, my mother killed, my brother killed, my sister killed, and I have one leg, I have one leg, one hand, and things like that because of all what is happening. How to heal all of that, how to reconcile all of that and bring people to start thinking touch the center and consolidating or reinforcing the peace and stability of the country and the unity, of course.
Yes, the first problem, there's something important. After every fight, after every disunion, after every argument, there is something people should sit and reflect on where, because it's easy to know when a war will start and it's difficult to know when it will end. So practically, the head of state and the government have launched the presidential plan for reconstruction and for Southeast and Northwest. The Prime Minister was the other day in the Jicam. I think the first thing, before starting any reconstruction in these two regions and in the far north, there should be a first part to reconcile all the parties. Because that's why we call on an inclusive dialogue. We will not say that the national dialogue was immersed. No, I think we should sit and reconstruct morally, because there are people who have, as we said, there are people who have lost a lot of things.
Senator Mbela has talked of reconstructing the
moral reconstruction. I call it in one of my articles the moral reconstruction of these two regions. Because how can you build a school in my village where I've lost everything? How can you build a water dam in my village whereas I have lost my wife or my children? The best thing is that the government, it is clear and fine, the government is doing well, but I think the government should think of the first part to reconstruct morally the two regions by healing wounds, by reconciling the parties through traditional rulers. Because today we are what the French
rule with traditional rulers.
Yeah, the Frenchman calls we are all Bantus.
Many of the traditional rulers have escaped their villages, and
they have escaped their villages because most of them have lost the trust of their people. They've lost the trust of their people. A traditional ruler should not be somebody who sells land, sell the whole village, and how can he stand in front of the people to talk to them? That is the problem. But we think that there are some traditional rulers who are worthy and trustworthy in their regions. We think that to reconcile, to bring the people to think of their reconstruction, is first the government should put in place a reconciliation committee that will heal those wounds.
A reconciliation committee should be put in place. And there is something that seems to be quite difficult, of course not impossible, but quite difficult, this message of peace. Because all what we're talking about, reconciliation, bringing people to start thinking otherwise, it's all about peace. It's all about sending a message that will redirect people's mentalities and ideas about all what is going on, tilting them towards the idea and the message of peace. But a civil society leader was seated on this seat on which you're seated today, this week, Ndiwum Emmanuel, and he said to me that the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph Jangute, has been preaching the message of peace in the desert, meaning that it's not going through. There is no response because the situation continues. Explosive devices, killing, burning of schools, and all of those things continue, despite the authority of the Prime Minister going down there to say, let's come together and try to sort out this thing. Let us look towards peace. Let us try to settle this matter.
What I said earlier, that we always know when a war will start, we never know when it will end.
And the question is how to get this message of peace down, not only the brains, but down into the hearts of the people.
Yes, First thing is that the Prime Minister, we will not say that the message of the Prime Minister have not gone through. It should be, because there are some regions who have accepted the message, because we saw on the 19th of May guns which were burned, and those guns were voluntarily handed by some of the boys. But there are some areas where they still stick on the crisis. But for me, I feel that a peace message should not be something that will automatically, or like a magic stick, that when you hit an automatic, like the stick of Moses, when you hit, automatically water will come out from I don't know where. I think it's time, because since 2016, it's 5 years today, people have been radicalized. People have lost a lot of things. They need time to really accept the message. But I think slowly and surely people are understanding, because what I used to say is not, it's us who are dying. It's my brother who died. It's my aunt who died. It's not somebody from another, it's not a Nigerian who died in the conflict. No, it's a Cameroonian. It's my brother. When today I go to my village in Mokondange, when I ask where is this person, they say he's dead.
All right, thank you so much, Aziz Mutanga, expert in peace and conflict resolution, public relations and development officer, Francis Conseiller. Thank you so much for your time. I go home with the word that there is hope. There is hope for a better tomorrow. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today. Équinoxe is up next.